again. طيب خير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته everyone. Welcome here, and I hope you guys will be able to benefit inshallah from today's talk and discussion. Discussion means I'm going to get you involved inshallah. Can we get some definitions of patience? Because I know sometimes when you say we're going to talk about patience, people say, well, what are you going to say about patience? Like, we all know what patience is, right? So can we get some kind of insight? It doesn't have to be a textbook definition of patience, but what does patience mean to you? Can we get some definitions? Some perspectives? It doesn't have to be definition. Huh? To listen? Oh, okay. To listen. So where is patience in this? Uh-huh. Okay, so holding back the urge to speak or respond, right? That's actually a very good start. It's actually a very good start. Okay, do we have something else about patience? Yes, at the back, the brother. Can you speak up a little bit? Because I have a mic here, you guys don't. Mental what? I'm trying to get the idea, but it hasn't. So so we don't want to define patience with another patience. Try not to use patience in your definition. So what do you mean by mental patience? Yes, we don't want to use sabr, and we don't want to use patience in the definition, because that's what we're trying to define, right? So yeah, carry on. I think you have an idea, but so we don't want patience. Again, use another word. That's the thing. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. I'll come back to you. The brother over there, yes. Remain steadfast. Okay, remain steadfast. So what does that mean? Okay, to hang in, right? Hang in the face of challenges. Okay, keep these words in mind, by the way. We're going to, inshallah, pull them together because that's actually very good. What else? I saw some hands up. Yes. Control your anger. Control your anger. So when I connect it to the first answer was, you want to have a response to someone who says something, but you hold back, right? So here it's anger as well. There's anger, you hold back. So same theme here, hold back. Although the subject matter here might be different, but principle is the same. Hold back. Hold back, yes. Okay, so the same principle, holding back, and you added the word emotion, right? Why did you mention emotion? Yeah, so why did you choose the word emotion? Regardless, but why didn't you use, for example, the urge, resist, or control the urge? Why did you say emotion? I mean, you can answer here, but you'll get in trouble with me, so, but just bear with me. Yeah. Sorry? Tolerance? Tolerate what? Okay, tolerate, okay, that's a good point. It's actually, tolerance is a form of patience, but we want to bring it back to something that we can utilize. When do you need to tolerate someone? Disagreement. So what does that mean? There is what? There is difference. There is difference. So we humans have an urge, have a need for conformity, for agreement. When someone disagrees with you, it bothers you. It's not a very convenient place to be in. So we like it when people agree with us. So this is why you need to tolerate. So you confine your urge that people agree with you. So that's tolerance. You allow them, you give them the space. So you are resisting an urge within yourself. Whether it's speaking, impulse to speak, whether it's anger, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a need for, or an urge. I need someone to agree with me, but they disagree with me. So when I hold back this urge, this impulse, that's called tolerance. Good, very good. Okay, mashallah, we're actually making good progress. Anything else? What does patience mean to you? Something that is hard to withstand. That's what sabr in the Arabic language is. Huh. Something sour? Okay. Yeah, okay. So what is about, okay. Let's reword this. So there is something sour, and patience shares this with it. So it's not sweet. Is that correct? That's what you're saying? Okay. So can we pull this together with what we said about resisting something inside of us? When you taste something sour, unpleasant, what is your reaction? What's your impulse? Let's say, act on that impulse. Okay, let's say you're chewing on something and it turns out to be bitter or sour, very strong taste, awful taste. What are you pushed to do? Spit it out, right? Get rid of it. Get rid of it. So that's true in the Arabic language, generally speaking, the Arabic culture, older Arabic culture, they say, they associate sabr with medicine, bitter medicine. They say there's medicine, and mainly medicine doesn't have a good taste. So although you have an urge to spit it out, but you know it's helpful to you, so you control that urge to get rid of it. So you still consume it. Okay, good. Jazakallah khair. Okay, so these are two things. Acceptance in what sense?
Acceptance in the sense that
Accepting something you like?
no, accepting what has been decreed, acknowledging, understanding the situation, and accepting its existence.
So accepting, you mean the qadar?
Accepting the qadar.
What has been decreed. So let's say tomorrow I get $10,000 lands in my account. Do I need to accept that? Is there any, does this sabr, does it require patience for me to accept $10,000 landing into my account? So what type of acceptance are you talking about? Yeah. Yeah. I want to give him a chance to. Aha. Aha.
So if the $10,000 that you received, you're not supposed to receive them, you have to have a lot of sabr because you understand this is not your right and you have to return it back, and that requires so the acceptance of the situation that you have to part away with this easy money.
Okay, so I'm accepting something that is not pleasant. Again, so when something unpleasant comes to us, what is our impulse? What is our urge? Push it back, run away from it, avoid it, right? So acceptance is actually to go against this impulse, not let it control us, rather we contain it. So that's the acceptance. What's the other one? Perseverance.
Perseverance.
Okay. What is perseverance? In English, what's perseverance?
To strive, to work towards, to keep moving forward.
That's persistence. Which is close, which is cousin of perseverance. But what is specifically about perseverance in English? Huh? No, perseverance has like a very unique connotation.
Forbearance when you're facing difficulty.
Okay, good. So perseverance is that you're working towards something, obstacles pop up. Things get hard. You start to lose hope. It's more challenging than you thought when you started. Now perseverance is that you don't give in. You don't give in, because when you are faced with obstacles, the natural or the immediate response for most people, the very basic default response is to give up, is to leave. I didn't sign up for this. I would say that's too much. But perseverance means even though obstacles appear on your way, you still remain persistent despite all of that resistance, all of that friction, whatever it is. Do we see a common pattern in all of this? All of these definitions, do you see a common pattern? Can anyone detect the same pattern in all of these answers? Give me a complete answer, don't throw words. Huh? Carry out. Now hold on. You had an answer, we said develop it, right? Without using the word patience. We said we're going to give you time to think about it. Resistance and resilience. Resilience. So what do we mean by resilience? Close. You're beating around the bush. But what is resilience in the English language? Yes, but something is missing. When do we use resilience? No, that's transcendence. Don't give me half-baked answers. Give me like a huh? Closer, but not yet. That's adaptation. It's not wrong, but still far. We need to get resilience, because resilience is a key word to understanding patience, by the way.
Is it when maybe a situation is so stacked up against you, everything seems so hopeless, and even in that situation, when you are actively being patient or persevering, that is called resilience?
Yes, it's very close to perseverance. Resilience, the common word in English now that is used, is that you bounce back after calamity. Yeah, you will get flattened out by circumstances, but you still get back up, get back on your feet. You're knocked out, you get back on your feet. You see the difference? You'll probably be defeated. You'll get back. That's resilience. You bounce back after calamity, after being destroyed. You pull yourself together and get back to it. That's what resilience is. So it's cousin of persistence, perseverance, but it's a unique meaning. So it's good to understand all of this. So all of this actually, and imagine this is one word in the Arabic language, sabr. All of this falls under sabr in the Arabic language. All of this falls under sabr in the Arabic language. Now again, back to my question, second question. Did you guys detect a pattern in all of these answers? If you detect that pattern, you know what patience is. You can go back home. Now,
there's some sort of hardship that has to be you have to be put through, or you.
that's true. That's the situation outside. Patience is an inner game. Then it reflects outside, but it's an inner game. So I'm giving you a strong clue. What is the pattern? What is sabr? Yeah, that's a fruit. That's a fruit of sabr. And by the way, in the study of akhlaq, which is the study of manners in Islam, which is very close to studying human behavior, and most of us, by the way, we're not familiar with our tradition. Our scholars are so precise, honestly. They are so insightful when it comes to human behavior, not only external, even internal. There's astonishing description of human dynamics in our tradition. But unfortunately, we're disconnected from this. So, back to the pattern. Don't want to keep flying off at a tangent.
Is the pattern who's having sabr, that person has to, the most fundamental thing is to understand the situation and, understand understand what's happening around him and his position in that whole game. Because without that understanding, the reaction, whatever reaction that may be, maybe it is a reaction where you don't hold back, maybe it's a reaction where you react to it. All of that requires awareness. Is this the pattern?
This helps patience or sabr, but it's not patience. It helps, but it's not. A deep what? Trust is tawakkul. Trust is tawakkul or thiqah. I mean, this trust in Allah could feed into patience, but we want sabr. It was in the answers that we had. Yes, but go beyond this basic word. Choice about what? Huh? Yeah, we don't want to define sabr by sabr. It's a conceptual. So, okay, good. But I can choose to drink water or I can choose not to drink water. That's not patience. No. So we want to differentiate. Yes, there is choice and sabr, but what is it? Choice about what? Give me a full sentence. Huh? No. All of that is interconnected, by the way. But we want to strip down patience to its bare content, nothing else. No trust, no faith, no strength. No, we're not talking about this. What is the bare thing, the naked thing we call patience? What is it? It's in all of these answers, it's a common theme. And I actually almost verbalized it. Someone hasn't answered. Yes, the brother there. You almost got it, but the words did not. Okay, try to word it again. I want to give you another chance. Hold on. You actually got it there, yeah. Can you say it again, but choose different words? Better choice of words. So, innate, that's where. One second. Not responding to what? Okay, very, very close. Somebody threw a word here. Who said something? Don't try to use natural. Because natural could be many things. But okay, you guys got it there. Anyone wants to crystallize it? So, very well done. You got the answer. The brother helped you over there. We want to just crystallize it. I'll give you a chance, brother. He's second line, yeah. That could be an outcome of patience, really, and many other things. But it's not patience itself. It's not patience itself. Okay, two chances. I'm going to give the sister here, then the brother there. Yes, two chances. Yeah. But not exactly emotional. But yes, emotions are included. So the key word is control. Key word is control. The brother said, what was your word? You said resisting what? The natural, the innate. That's where it didn't go right with you. Yes, brother. Okay, I'll try not to act on this now, inshallah. Okay, it is. Okay, let's get this together. So let's agree on something. So we humans have an impulse, have a reaction to situation, circumstances, something that is being said, right? We have an urge to respond with impulse. Emotions are involved, needs, urges, whatever. Fine? Someone says something we disagree with. We jump the gun, we want to express our disagreement, right? We want to make a judgment. We want to jump to conclusions. So this, let's use the word impulse because it actually covers everything. It is connected to emotions, it's connected to urges, to needs. Impulse. It's an immediate response. The reason why innate is problem, because we have many innate responses. Some of them are good, some of them are not. So innate really diffused your focus. That was the problem. So this kind of impulsive response that we humans have, okay, when you hold it back, be calm, hold it back, take some time, weigh it up with good reason and judgment, and then and don't act upon it immediately. That's what patience is. And it has many varieties: perseverance, forbearance, tolerance, resilience, all of these. That's a topic for tomorrow, but it's not limited. It's because responses and impulses are not all bad. So this is why there is patience that is obligatory. You have to have patience. There is patience that is recommended, situations when patience is actually good. There are situations where patience is evil. Yeah. If you see someone being oppressed, someone being beaten up, and you can help them out, and your urge is to help them out, but you act with so much composure and you don't get involved. This is haram patience. So not all patience is halal. You see the limits of Allah have been transgressed, and you are in the capacity to actually make a difference, to effect some kind of influence. And you resist that urge. It's an urge, it's a noble urge, but still, and could be impulsive. Because people who really work on themselves, their impulse becomes guided. And you decide to hold back without any good reason. It's patience, but it's haram. So in the Arabic language, this is not called patience, although it is actually patience. But it's not called patience because the word sabr is only used in virtuous situations. Okay? So patience is the capacity to not let our impulse take over. Let our impulse take over. This lecture is about Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. So Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, and this is something it's important to point out. He was mentioned twice in the Quran, really. His story was referred to. He was mentioned more than twice, but his story was mentioned twice, briefly in the Quran, not much detail. We have narrations about his story, and none of them is authentic. None of them is authentic. But what is the gist of the story of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam? And before we answer this, I have a question for you. Who was more patient, Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam or Prophet Muhammad alayhi sallallahu alayhi wasallam? You actually can compare in this sense, in a specific sense. Huh? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was more patient? Okay, who disagrees with him? You disagree with him? You agree with him? Yeah, I said who disagrees? Are you guys scared of him? Okay, yes. So why in the Islamic tradition, every time we talk about patience, we mention Prophet Ayyub? Why? Yeah. Okay. إني مسني الضر. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so who displayed more patience, Prophet Ayyub or Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam? Okay. Very good. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the level of patience that he had and displayed was far greater than the level of patience that was displayed by Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. Full agreement. Full agreement. But why in the Islamic tradition, when we talk about patience, even there's a saying, a proverb in the Arabic language, Sabru Ayyub. Yes, he became a symbol. What else? Exactly. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, even in the Quran, you see the reference of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. Does it mention that he had a message to his people? That he called them to Islam and they resisted? Is that mentioned? It's not mentioned about him. And by the way, there is a difference. So take this as a piece of information. Ayyub alayhi salam, there is a discussion among the scholars, was he a prophet or not? Yeah. You'll find it in the books of tafsir. You'll find it in the books of history, like Ibn Kathir, Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. They actually discuss, there's a discussion among the scholars, was Ayyub a prophet or not? Some scholars say he was a wise man, just like Luqman. Because Luqman also, there is a discussion whether he was a prophet or not. Because there's no mention in the Quran about Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam carrying a message to his people. There's no reference to him as a prophet. He was mentioned as one of the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam, of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. But again, the majority of the Muslim scholars is that he's a prophet. The majority of the scholars is that he was a prophet. But Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was mentioned only with one reference, about patience. So he became sort of a symbol for it. It's not like his patience was greater than the patience of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Actually, this patience, or a form of patience, was referred to 5 prophets who reached the highest level of this kind of resilience. Actually, resilience, the word here, which is a form of patience. Can anyone think of them? They're mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab. Nuh, Ibrahim, Isa, Musa, and Muhammad alayhim salam. These are Ulil Azm, the prophets of firm resolution. The prophets of firm resolution. And firm resolution here means resilience, perseverance. And that's a strong form of patience. Okay? Another secret about patience when it comes to the Quran. Patience takes many forms. For example, what we call courage in English. In the Arabic language, what's the Arabic word for courage? Anyone knows Arabic here? No, tashji' is to cheer someone up. Shaja'a. Yes, shaja'a, which is the same root. Shaja'a. Is shaja'a mentioned in the Quran? Not even once. Not even once. So in the battlefield, what do you need? You need courage, bravery, right? You need shaja'a. And we find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran when He talks about believers facing disbelievers in the battlefield. They ask Allah for help, they never ask Him for shaja'a. What do they ask Him for? رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. Oh Allah, give us patience. وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا. Give us firmness, make our feet firm. Patience. They say, give us patience. You need patience in the battlefield, or do you need courage? It's the same. It's the same. It is the same. And this is why there is also a proverb in the Arabic language. It says, الشجاعة صبر ساعة. The reality of courage is patience for a while. Just be patient, hang in there. That's what shaja'a, courage is. How come? So we have one of the scholars of the Arabic language and the scholars of hadith. His name is Imam al-Asma'i. Imam al-Asma'i. He was a legend when it came to poetry. He collected the poetry of the Arabs. And he was a scholar of hadith, Imam al-Asma'i. And he wrote a very unique poem. Very, very unique poem. Probably some of you heard about it. Okay, صوت صفير البلبل هيج قلبي الثمل. Something like this. Because it was all full of repetition. It has lines for طب طب طبلي والرقص قد طاب إلي and things like that. Anyways, so he traveled around the Bedouins. The Bedouins spoke the best Arabic language, standard Arabic language. So he went to live with them and learn their language and also learn the culture associated with the language. Because you can't learn a language. Language is not only words and meanings, there is cultural context for it. If you don't get that cultural context, you get it wrong. That's what happens with many of the students of knowledge. As they start studying Islam, they go, are you broadcasting? They go cuckoo, right? Why? Because they think, hey, it's words, meanings. And then they bring a Western framework and they force it into this and they arrive at false conclusions. So, Imam al-Asma'i, he travels around those Bedouins and he learns from their wisdom, language and the culture. So, he knew about a Bedouin who was known for his bravery. Bravery. Like he was known to be fearless in the battlefield. So he says, I want to learn what is shaja'a from this man. I want to know the secret of bravery from this man. I want to go and meet him, an older person. So he goes to him and he says, I want you to teach me what is shaja'a, what is courage. How do I find courage? What is the secret of it? What's the recipe? And by the way, this took me 10 years to figure out, honestly. So he said to him, give me your index finger and I'll give you my index finger. Bite on mine, I'll bite on yours. So imagine, he's got his finger in the Bedouin's mouth and the Bedouin's finger is in his mouth. And he says, bite as hard as you can and I'll bite. We'll see who manages to keep his finger in or pulls it last. So they start biting. Al-Asma'i gets to a point where he can't deal with the pain anymore, so he pulls his finger. So the Bedouin says to him, what I did, he did not pull his finger, the Bedouin. He said, that's bravery, that's courage. Huh? Like, serious? Honestly, it puzzled me for 10 years, didn't make sense to me. What are you talking about? Like the ability to handle pain or be patient with pain, to bear that pain. What is the connection to courage? That tells you we don't understand patience, we don't understand courage. That's the problem of today's world. By the way, courage is a moral principle in Islam. It's a virtue. It's a virtue. And it's a sign of the strength of one's character. Most of what we call courage, by the way, is recklessness, is madness. But our parameters are messed up. So, what is this Bedouin saying? Bite on my finger, or bite on your finger. I can put up with the pain more than you. This is what courage is. How come? Remember what we said about patience? Patience is what? Your ability to not let your immediate response or impulse take over. So you basically transcend it. You override it. You override your impulse, right? That's what patience is. And courage is a form of patience. Why? Because in a situation, fear kicks in, takes you over. And it seems to dominate. That's your impulse. If you let it dominate and inform your action, that's cowardice. But if you experience the fear and hold it back, don't let it take over. It will be there, but you can detach from it and then you can get over it. You can override it. And then choose the right behavior, the right response. This is what courage is. And this is why, even in English, they say courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's actually acting despite your fear. That's what courage is. So, back to Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, simply, he was a rich man and he had a huge family, a big number of wives and sons. Eventually, all his family died, but one of his wives stayed with him. All his children died, he lost his wealth. He lost his wealth. And he was struck with a disease. The disease let him, or turned him helpless, completely helpless. He depended on his wife for everything. He couldn't work, he couldn't earn a living, he couldn't even take care of himself. His wife had to take full care of him. He was completely dependent on his wife. Imagine, lost his children, lost his wealth, and lost his health. These are the blessings. These are the blessings, the comforts of life, the things that we get attached to. And then people forsake him as well. People left him. Some narrations, and these narrations come from the scriptures, from the people of the book, that his illness made his body disgusting. And that's not true. That's not true. Muslim scholars are agreed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not try His prophets in a way that makes them disgusting. So how long was he tried for? We don't have any authentic narration. Some of the narrations from the people of the scripture, the most dominant, says 18 years. 18 years. And Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam didn't even make dua. At the beginning, most of his illness, he did not make dua. Why? Shouldn't we make dua? You go in trouble, make dua. Why not? Yeah. Very good answer. I'll come back to you. Yes. But that was at the end. But throughout his illness, he did not. So when he turned to Allah, oh Allah, illness has really struck me, he was not patient? He lost his patience? No, dua does not go against patience. So this is not about patience, by the way. You're struck with an illness, with a very challenging condition. Do you make dua or not? This is not about patience. Patience is an obligation here. You have to be patient. Okay, okay. But
Is it because when the calamity initially struck him, the impulse was to want to get away from it, and maybe he felt by him asking and maybe dua to Allah, maybe his internal state would have been in a position which is almost acting on the impulse to be unhappy with the, no, not of course he would be unhappy with it, but it would not come from, it would come from an impulse, as well as being impulsive reaction and not, I can't have that word.
But would it take, let's say it's 18 years true, but let's say it's true. Would it take 18 years to get over the impulse? Yeah. Okay. Let me give the sister there a chance. Yeah. Huh? He what? Shame? But eventually he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Eventually he made dua. So would we say that he was ashamed first but then not? So it did he complain? Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to get it there, but it still doesn't register. This one doesn't register with me yet. So, okay, I have to give just two chances. The brother there and the brother here, because you had your hands up first, yeah. Okay. But she was helping till the end. He had none but Allah to turn to. He was, again, let's say he was a prophet, according to the majority of the scholars. Yeah. But by the way, something good about your voice, you're very clear, mashallah. That's very good. Oh, yeah, no, this brother here, yeah. I don't want to say, by the way, you guys, as you are trying, by the way, it's not about getting the answer right or wrong. It's about you engaging with the concept that we're talking about. So, again, please don't like, when I, like if I turn down your answer, please, like, you're just thinking about it, that's the point. That's the point. So, I don't see how shame could be associated with it. And probably what's not allowing me to get there is that actually this is something that we Muslims don't know much about Islam these days. Because we have been influenced a little bit, or not a little bit, quite a bit, with the global culture. You guys know about the woman who came to the Prophet ﷺ and she would have something like epilepsy, right? She came to the Prophet ﷺ, she said, Ya Rasulullah, inni usra, O Messenger of Allah, I get fits of epilepsy, I lose consciousness. وَإِنِّي أَتَكَشَّفْ, and I expose my body. When I do this, my body gets exposed. I uncover. فَادْعُ اللَّهَ لِي, make dua for me. The Prophet ﷺ told her, he said, إِن شِئْتِ دَعَوْتُ اللَّهَ لَكِ فَشَفَاكِ وَإِن شِئْتِ صَبَرْتِ وَلَكِ الْجَنَّةِ. Prophet ﷺ gave her two choices. He said, if you wish, I can make dua for you and you will be healed. But you have another choice. Be patient with it and hold on to patience. Like, don't seek the remedy or recovery from this illness, and you're guaranteed Jannah. She said, Ya Rasulullah asbar. She said, I'll be patient. Jannah? I'll be patient. It's worth it. But she said, ولكن يا رسول الله إني أتكشف فادعوا الله ألا أتكشف. My body gets exposed, So just make dua that when I have these fits of epilepsy, I don't expose myself. The Prophet ﷺ made dua. So it looks in Islam we have two choices. We have two choices. And not everyone has a level of iman that is conducive to the first type of choice, which is you hit with a calamity, don't ask Allah to remove it. Live with it. Accept it. You can't do it at our level. You need a high level of iman. Honestly. You need, this is by the way, this is a discussion that is prevalent in books of fiqh and also in books of tazkiyah. It's mentioned there. So Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam chose not to make dua, to live with the conditions Allah gave him. Is this a choice? Yes. If your iman can handle this, go for it. But what is the safe solution is to ask Allah to remove it. And that works with most of us. Because we are attached to the dunya. We are attached to the dunya. Okay. So Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, why didn't he make dua at the beginning? Because of that. Because of that. He reached a level of belief in al-qadr. This is not a claim. This is not just, okay, I'll just believe in al-qadr and I'm not going to make any dua. No, you don't do it like this. You grow into this and you find yourself settling in it nicely and naturally, organically. It comes with strong faith. Even if you try to reason with it now, it doesn't make sense. I'm telling you. Does it make sense to me? I'll be honest with you. In my head, no. In my head, no. Had I not read this, honestly, had I not read this, I cannot relate to it. Honestly, I personally cannot relate to it. If I'm hit by something, I'm gonna cry out to Allah, get me out of this. I can't deal with it. But subhanallah, so there are things with faith. There are things with faith that you only know how they work when you are there. And if you don't experience them, you can depend on accounts from people who've been there. This is one of them. So Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, and this is by the way discussed in the story of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, that he did not make dua. Why? Because for him, it was just patience. And it was accepting whatever Allah brings his way, and he would not ask for something else. So why did he ask towards the end? Excellent, yes. So again, this is not my conclusion. This is mentioned in the stories of the prophets, in his story, that it reached a point where people started talking about him. People started talking about him. So he had two friends, the only two friends who would stay in touch with him. One of them said to the other, Ayyub must have done something really bad that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept him in this illness for so long and he's not giving him recovery. So the other person could not have patience with this, okay, because that would have been bad patience. He goes to Ayyub alayhi salam and he says, our friend says such and such. He said, Wallahi, I don't recall I've done anything wrong or I've sinned at all. All I know is that I glorify Allah, that even to the point when I'm walking through the market and I would hear two people selling and buying and one of them is saying Wallahi, swearing by Allah, that I'm afraid he's not honest. I would go and pay money as a ransom or expiation for this. Because I hate that the name of Allah is mentioned with a lie. He says, that's the worst of my actions. That's what he's saying. But when people started talking about him, this is something he could not put up with. So he turned to Allah and he said, Oh Allah, Rabbi inni massani al-dhurr wa anta arhamur rahimin. Inni massani al-shaytanu bi nusbin wa adhab. Okay? So that's when Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam made the dua. What type of patience was that of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam that we know of? So we're going to divide patience into three main areas. There are many areas, but these are the three main areas where we Muslims, believers, good people need patience. Which is resist the urge, override your impulse. So to apply the definition of patience, of sabr, which is override your impulse, how does this manifest in the story of Prophet Ayyub? Applied aspect now. How does this apply to the story of Prophet Ayyub? What was the impulse, and how did he hold it back and resist it or override it? Can anyone help us figure out? What was his impulse? The natural impulse. Complain was one of them. Yes, complain. Two? Correct? Correct what? Well, yeah, that would... Okay. Okay, that's like a small detail, but good. Okay. Yes. Have the affliction removed. Yes. So first, the urge, when you're struck by illness, you want it removed. The fact that he did not even ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove it in the first place, that was acting against his urge. Although it's not a bad urge, but again, this is a virtue. This is a virtue. And the scholars discuss this under the title Ar-Rida. Ar-Rida. Ar-Rida is virtuous acceptance, graceful acceptance of what Allah brings into your life. So the foundation of it is patience, but then this patience transforms into what? Acceptance. Not only, because patience shows there is resistance. There is an impulse, you're pushing back against it. This is why patience is, or sabr is bitter. They say sabr is bitter. It's painful. It's effortful. There is a resistance. You're pushing against your impulse. Okay? You're pushing against your impulse. That is patience. Whereas rida is that your impulse is completely subdued. And you are content and pleased with what Allah brings into your life. You completely transcend that. Okay? So Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam resisted the urge to actually ask for the disease to be removed, for the financial loss to be recompensed or whatever. And he pushed against the impulse of being what? Of complaining. Because naturally humans, we love to feel victimized. You wrong a person, they're going to tell the whole community, right? You can make a mistake, then tomorrow everyone is talking about you. Why? Or let's say there's a misunderstanding between you and another person, they feel wronged, then you're receiving so many phone calls. Why did you do this and that? Why did you treat this person like this? Right? Because we humans love to share our burden. We love to be victim and start talking about it. So resisting that urge as well is, so one of the worst type of complaint is to complain of Allah, about Allah. To complain about Allah. So when your life changes, unpleasant things happen in your life, we complain. We don't say, oh, Allah did this to me, Allah did that to me. But we'll go to our friend, you know how life is treating me. And behind life is Allah. And it's inside of us. And if we were to be honest, we would see it. If we were really transparent with ourselves, we would see it. I'm not against people going through pain. I'm not against people really feeling that, they're dealing with tough circumstances. But the moment you think you are virtuous and you are good, that's the beginning of your downfall. Literally, humans, we have forces for good and forces for evil. No one is by default good. No one is by default evil. We have people who strive to strengthen the good in them over the evil, and we have people who put their focus on the evil or just leave the whole process and evil will take over. That's what we have. People striving to be good. That's what we have. The moment you feel safe about your goodness, the moment you take it for granted, is the moment actually you are causing so much evil by default around you, and you won't feel it. So it's very important to keep ourselves in check, especially when we go through circumstances and we love, there is sweetness in playing the victim. There is sweetness. And by the way, today's culture celebrates this. Celebrate your grievances. Bring them out. Let the world know about them. I'm not saying don't defend people who are oppressed or disadvantaged, etc. But I would say be careful about the inner trap. Be careful. Be careful. The fact that you are defending some kind of injustice does not guarantee that you are coming from a good place at all. That's another story. Okay. So Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, his impulses would have been, again, first to ask immediately for the illness to be removed, to complain about his condition, and that would be in an indirect way complaining about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you complain to people, what's going to happen? Can people change your circumstances? They can't. Let's say I have an illness. I go to my family doctor and I say this and that, this is my condition. Is this complaining about Allah? No, I'm just following the necessary means, cause and effect, to change. But if I go to my mechanic and I tell him, my kidney hurts, couldn't sleep last night, right? What is my mechanic going to do? So the thing is, always when you have sweetness about complaining, when you feel drawn to complain about your conditions, you need to look more carefully. Because it might be you are dissatisfied with Allah, but obviously we have a lot of education and a lot of conditioning not to say that explicitly. So what do? We go about it indirectly. We imply it because we want to let it out somehow. So what else? What impulses could you think of that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was patient? Like that resisted? What impulses? What tendencies? What needs? Yes, grief itself. There is sweetness in grief. There is sweetness in grief. Feeling bad for yourself. By the way, it's extremely sweet, very attractive. Feel pity towards yourself. It's very attractive. There's a pull, it has a strong pull. And it's not helpful at all. It's not helpful. So that's another form of patience. That's another form of patience, yeah. Huh? Yes. But it's a different type of grief. It's a different type of grief. I don't want to make a promotion for tomorrow's course, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow. But this requires an introduction. This requires an introduction. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ cried over his son Ibrahim, right? So, did he grieve? Well, yes, it was normal grief, but so there's grief when it comes from a specific area within you as a human being, does not go against patience. But there's another type of grief which is the most common, is actually, it has this dissatisfaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. So there is simply more than one element within us. Where does this grief come from? Makes a difference. Yeah. Okay, so Ayyub alayhi salam was patient. The kind of sabr that he practiced was what? Restraint, self-control against his impulse when it comes to external conditions, which is the qadr of Allah. So that's one type of patience, major type of patience. The qadr of Allah, circumstances. That's one type of patience. Second type of patience is patience to remain upon the truth. When you pray 5 times a day, that requires patience. When you fast, requires patience. When you lower your gaze, requires patience. When you have an urge to engage in haram or to do something that is not acceptable by Allah, you resist. When fulfilling the obligations puts you under strain and pressure, and you still do it despite the discomfort, despite maybe the agony that comes with it, that's patience.
So what's patience in those aspects?
Your impulse is to pull out and not fulfill them. Wake up for Fajr. Your impulse is to stay in the warmth of your sheets, right? Stay here, it's warm. Right? Didn't get enough sleep. That's your impulse. You go over it, don't let it control your actions, contain it, and act despite it. That's the patience. That's perseverance here.
I'm just thinking out loud. So the double aspect is that this action, is it the act of resisting the impulse?
Yeah.
Or is it also act of resisting and performing it and following it up with an action? Are both these elements, because there are two things, resistance and then
Both.
both.
You contain your impulse and then you act based on your reason. Okay? You do the virtuous thing. Both at the same time. Okay? So, patience in the face of the qadar, meaning the circumstances. Patience in remaining steadfast and consistent on obligations and religious recommendations. And third, patience in resisting the temptations of sin and haram. صبر على أقدار الله, صبر على طاعة الله, وصبر عن محارم الله. 3 types, main areas of patience. Patience in the face of circumstances, whatever Allah wrote upon you, 1. Number 2, patience to remain steadfast upon obedience to Allah, because it requires here perseverance, persistence, resilience in this pursuance of piety, pursuit of piety, right? This is what the series is called. And third one, resisting the temptation of the sin, the pull of the sins. And not only once, but consistently. Consistently. There's a strong urge in every human being for sins, different type of sins. And each one of us has at least one weakness, where you are fully drawn into something that displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's a common temptation. It keeps coming back at you. To keep fighting it and resist that pull, your attraction to it, and act against it, against your urging, against your impulse, that requires patience. So these are the 3 main areas of patience. Any other areas, branch out of them. And tomorrow, inshallah, we will talk in more detail. Because this seems to be only religious. No, but when we say patience or persistence in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this includes everything else you do in your life. Your job, your goals, your business plans, whatever it is, whatever ambitions you have. They should be aligned, with your pursuit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. Okay, so let's summarize. So, patience is part of the inner dynamics of humans. You have many forces within you. You have many components within you. And most of your immediate impulses come from the nafs, from your ego. They come from the desires of your body, the reactions of your body. They either desires, lusts, base desires, or they are anger, aggression, defense, survival. Greed is part of your desires. Contempt to others is part of your anger and aggression force. We have 2 main forces. We have the desire to have and obtain, and the desire to defend. They're called they are universal, by the way, in all cultures, are agreed upon. In the Arabic language, they call them al-quwwa al-shahwaniyya wal-quwwa al-ghadabiyya. The desires, the pulling forces, usually the desires of the body, the stomach, and things that we are attracted to. And then the capacity to, which is the power of anger, to defend ourselves. We call it survival these days. It causes you to treat others with contempt, to act competitively towards them, to want to gain and win against them. And usually these two forces mix. So they create very interesting mixtures. This is where your impulses come from. This is called the nafs. This is very immediate, impulsive. So patience is actually to stop this, slam the brakes on this, say, wait, hold on. Let me assess the situation. Let me give it a virtuous reading of the situation. Let me see what the truth tells me, what my heart, my soul, what revelation tells me. With the assessment of the situation, then what's the best course of actions? Then I act. All of this is patience. All of this is patience. Whatever condition it is in, situation it's in, unique condition, it gets a different title, but it's the same thing. And this is why they say actually in the Arabic language they say patience is the mother of virtue. And tomorrow inshallah we're actually going to go into detail to show how most of the known virtues that we agree upon, at the heart of them is patience, is that pattern that we spoke about. So 3 areas of patience, we said 3 areas of self-restraint, if you like, self-control, is, you guys help me out. First type, patience with the qadr of Allah, circumstances, whatever happens, calamities, inconveniences, etc. Second, other than Adnan, remaining obedient, consistent in obedience. Yes, what else? Resisting the sin, and remaining consistent in abstaining from sin. These are the main areas of patience. Now a question. Remember we started with, usually people say, what is to say about patience other than what we know, right? Most people say, oh, patience, like why are you like making a lecture on patience? What are you going to talk about? Like a whole day you're going to talk about patience. Come on, like we know what patience is. So, do we see things slightly differently today? Okay. So the lesson here is, believe me, a lot of what we take for granted in terms of knowledge of what Islam teaches us, that's how we approach it. We think we know it, and there are so many things about it we don't know. So this is why it's important to keep learning. Don't say no. Don't say, I know this already, when you don't know what's in it. Don't assume that you know. Always stay hungry for more education, for more learning, and get to learn your Islam. Get to learn to practice it. Because part of why we Muslims don't practice Islam in our lifestyle, except we're at the masjid and only restricted areas, is we are more secular than the secularist. For us, Islam is mere decoration. I learn a little bit of stuff here and there. I read this book, I studied that book, I attended that course, I memorized this, memorized that. Yeah, put that on the shelf. Life, let's get real. You get real, you don't get real with Islam. Actually, everything in Islam, Allah gave it to us as tools, strategies, paradigms, frameworks to be able to handle life. Islam decodes the language of this life. Literally. But we have put it in the freezer and turned it inactive, and then now we claim it doesn't work. No, it's our approach to it is wrong, and that's why our approach doesn't work. But Islam itself, the reality of Islam is what? How to live life. Not how to run away from life, it's actually how to live life. Literally. Okay, so we can take a few questions. Oh, yeah. Yes. So this is to grow in our hearts. And to grow in our hearts, prayer, 5 daily prayers, then add to them the sunnah, rawatib, the 12 rak'ahs every day of sunnah, then add to them qiyam al-layl, fasting, Ramadan, and fasting at least 3 days every month, the white days, or better, fast Monday, Thursday. Recite Quran and read Quran with contemplation and openness to learn. Give the zakah, help out. Everything in Islam, if we do it from our hearts, it's going to elevate us there. There's nothing special. Like Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us what we need to do to get there. I'm not going to come and tell you something new. I don't have anything new. I don't have anything new. And what gets us there is really what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligatory upon us. If we do the obligations properly, we will find that we are actually getting there. But we read the Quran with, I would say, 10% of our mental capacity. That's why we're not benefiting. We're not open. Our heart is not present. So that's what I would recommend. Really, there's no special recipes. Keep remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do istighfar all the time. Istighfar cleanses the heart, washes the heart. And cleanses doesn't mean, it's not a passive thing. When you cleanse the heart, that means your fitrah starts emerging. Something good, the life of your heart starts growing. Yeah. Questions? Yeah. The second of patience. Oh. Very good question. Ibn al-Qayyim was asked this question. He said he was asked, there are people who strive to worship Allah and it's hard for them. It's tough for them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It takes a lot of effort. Whereas there are people, for them worshipping Allah, they reached a point where worshipping Allah is so enjoyable and effortless. So the question was, the patient ones are exerting more effort, and these ones are just having fun. Who's better? He said the ones who are having fun. So the one who asked the question, he said, how come? He said, because these people, they worked on their hearts. These people worked on their limbs. Labor of the limbs is effortful. Work on the heart is hard at the beginning, but so enjoyable afterwards. For someone to reach a point that they enjoy the Quran, they must have come a long way in their inner work. So he said, these people in the Arabic language, he said, هؤلاء متكئون مستريحون في طريقهم إلى الجنة يسبقون أولئك الذين يكدحون. He says these people are reclining, like laying on their side and going fast to Jannah, faster than the ones who are working day and night. Why? Because these people took care of their hearts. He says this in Madarij al-Salikin, actually, his book Madarij al-Salikin. So that would be the explanation. It requires a little bit more background, but in brief, that's it. So focus on the heart. And he mentions Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And the statement of Abu Qulaba, one of the tabi'in, he said Abu Bakr did not excel due to so much fast and qiyam al-layl. Although he used to fast a lot and pray at night a lot. But it was about something that was in his heart. Something in his heart, yeah. But good question. MashaAllah. And another question? We can take two, inshallah, before we leave. Yes, sister. Yeah, they have a relationship. They have a relationship. So, because we have levels of patience, of sabr. The basic level of patience, or sabr, is more like willpower. It has nothing to do with yaqeen. It has very little to do with yaqeen. When yaqeen comes in, the stronger the yaqeen, the less the need for patience. Because yaqeen will carry you over. Because when you see beyond what's immediate, it's so captivating that the distractions or the resistance immediately become insignificant. That's what yaqeen does. But generally speaking, for people to grow spiritually, you need two, yaqeen and patience. This is why Allah says in Surah Al-Sajdah, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ. We made of them guides or leaders in guidance. When they had patience, لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ, and they reached yaqeen about our signs. So this is why Ibn Taymiyyah says, بِالصَّبْرِ وَالْيَقِينِ تُنَالُ الْإِمَامَةُ بِالدِّينِ. Leadership in Islam is acquired with sabr and yaqeen. Yeah. But that's a very big topic, by the way. But that's just touching on, scratching the surface. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. So, let me get back to yaqeen and patience then, because that's a very interesting topic. You cannot develop yaqeen, high level of yaqeen, without patience. So they're not mutually exclusive. The dynamics of these virtues, mutual dynamics, are so beautiful. In order to reach yaqeen, you need a lot of inner work. How do you reach yaqeen? Read Quran. Do a lot of dhikr. Yaqeen happens, this is why a lot of dhikr has repetition. Repetition. Why? Repetition does magic with the heart. It does magic with the heart. Imagine, salah is almost repetitive. 17 times, at least 17 times, you're doing the same things. So each rak'ah. Then if you pray your sunnah, imagine how many times. After salawat, 33 times, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, 33 times. Istighfar, open, you keep doing that as often as possible. This repetition cleanses your heart. This repetition, and this is why some of the scholars, they said, dhikr is not a verbal exercise. Dhikr is a journey into the unseen world. When you do dhikr, you actually leaving this world behind, and in your heart you are experiencing the unseen. It's a first-hand experience. It's the vision of the heart. So when you say subhanallah, you are living the meaning and you're disconnected from the world. Interestingly, Ibn Taymiyyah, he had, famously, he had this, after Fajr he would sit for such a long time. Roughly speaking, based on what they said, it's equal to 3 hours of our time. 3 hours after Fajr. He would sit and he would not talk to anyone. Not talk to anyone at all. And they said he would be disconnected from reality completely. He would be doing dhikr. And one of his students, Ibn al-Qayyim, revealed the secret. He said he would repeat Surah Al-Fatiha. He would keep reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Ibn Taymiyyah used to say, they asked him about this time like this. He said, هذه غدوتي, this is my breakfast. If I don't have it, I can't survive the rest of the day. And actually, anyone who reads Ibn Taymiyyah very carefully, almost everything, Ibn Taymiyyah says you can trace it back to إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Everything. Any principle Ibn Taymiyyah talks about, really he drives it back to إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Imagine this kind of strong bond he had with this verse. It was very powerful. So dhikr, it's very important that dhikr you engage with it. We don't give it an opportunity, by the way. For us, it's subhanallah, 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 like I'm done. Whew, now I can live life. That's how we think about it, as if it holds us back from life. Life is here. Outside is death for your heart. Literally, that's the problem. If you just give yourself, and you know what? Not tomorrow, today. Just today. I challenge you, give yourself 15 minutes. 15 minutes. And I would say choose your favorite dhikr. Subhanallah, or Alhamdulillah, or La ilaha illallah, or Allahu Akbar, or La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, or Astaghfirullah. One of them comes very naturally to you where you are now. The one that you find really resonates. 15 minutes, just immerse yourself in it. Just immerse yourself in it. No mobile phone, no distractions. Even if there's no lights, that would be even better. And this is why Qiyam al-Layl is important, by the way, because there's no visual distractions. Do it 15 minutes, immerse yourself, and just let yourself, literally, let yourself be sucked into the dhikr. And I promise you will experience something probably for the first time in your life. It'll be so sweet. I'm not kidding you, but we don't give ourselves a chance. We don't give ourselves a chance. So it's really about the quality. And it's not in your mind, it's more in your heart. Just let the words carry you. Just lose yourself, literally lose yourself. And by the way, it's very sweet, it's very beautiful. And we have a tendency to do it, but we are so much, we're always like standing on our toes all the time. We're on standby because of, a lot of stimulation around us. But it's good to give yourself this break. 15 minutes, I challenge. And if you don't experience something, you probably need a punch in the face. طيب. Any more questions? Final question, by the way, or last question. جزاك الله خير. How do you control the desire? Well, this is how it should be. This is how it should be, yes. But I would say even, experiment with patience. Like, you have an urge now. Honestly, who today had an urge during this lecture to check their phone? I myself, I'm speaking to you and I had the urge just now as you were asking me a question to check my phone. And I thought, you know what? Do I need to check my phone? I don't. It's an urge. And I said to myself, I'm not going to do it. That's patience. Practice patience with these small things and it will start to grow. It will start to grow. Okay? So just practice it with small things. But this is how we grow patience. This is how we grow it, yeah. طيب, we'll have to leave it. Jazakumullah khair, barakallah feekum. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you guys managed to get some practical benefit. Even if it's 1-2 points, act on them. Let them, at least if they start a thought process, that would be really great. Jazakumullah khair, and anyone who's interested, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala, we'll get deeper into patience. And I think Brother Adnan is available for details. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Muhammad wa alayhi wa sallam, and Jazakumullah khair for Masjid Salam here. May Allah reward you for hosting us and for allowing us this opportunity. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.